Damien is there? Oh, please tell me Damien's not drunk. If he's drunk, holy crap. I looked around the corner to see Settle, Faye, and to my surprise, Damien sitting on the ground by the bedroom door. Damien's face was as pink as a peach, matching Settle and Faye's intoxicated faces, but his eyes were glimmering in gold. He's totally drunk. I don't know what to say about this, but I want to see this unfold. I'm probably going to laugh so loud.
War deep within. I can't go through it alone, and I won't leave you on your own. I stand before you now and promise you I am not afraid. I will fight and guide the way. We will rise again to glory then, soar into the sky. If you stop and see, then you just might believe.
Sup guys, the name's JONAH Dragon, and welcome back to Seduce Me 2, the Demon War. So last we left off, Damien is not a human, but a demon this entire time. And I am upset. And now we're training with Settle. We came back, and Damien was having problems with his mind reading, but everything's fine, I think. And let's just continue. I woke up to Damien still in my arms, while the grogginess of the morning overtook my body and made me feel like going back to sleep. Something about Damien in my arms made me keep my eyes open. He seemed at peace, finally having some shut-eye and getting proper rest. I felt a wave of happiness run through me, but at the same time, I couldn't help but remember the voice in my dreams. Damien was a demon. I ran my fingers through Damien's hair, becoming lost in thought once again. Was I being selfish, or was I just being positive? Damien seemed to only hate his mind reading, and that was taken care of. At the same time, a wave of reality washed over my moral compass. Damien had to be the one to decide. It was his body, and he was the one ultimately living in it. But was it even possible to become human? The question crossed my mind, and settled in as I stared at the far wall. Would Damien ever even have a choice? Well, if there was no choice in the matter, then Damien was set to live a happier life with his mind-reading ability under a barrier. I just have to give him energy, which didn't seem to be a big deal. As Damien nuzzled my shoulder in his sleep, I looked down at him and smiled. Yeah, it was okay. I rubbed my eyes, but stopped as I managed to spot Diana at the doorway, holding 2 plates of food and leaning against the doorframe. The food looked delicious, but the intrusion was out of place. Diana? Diana placed a finger to her lips before walking over and gently placing the food she brought onto the table near the bed, being careful not to make noise. Damien seemed to cuddle closer, despite obviously smelling the food by the wiggle of his nose. Oh, that's adorable to imagine. I couldn't help but smile and nod to Diana, combing my fingers through Damien's hair as Diana crossed her arms and watched, lowering her voice to barely above a whisper to speak to me.
You seem to be in a good mood.
Doesn't sound like a whisper, but okay. I nodded, looking up at the succubus as I gently gave Damien a squeeze. Yeah, Damien got some sleep, which is what he needed. I took the moment to look down at Damien's sleeping face, seeing how innocent and peaceful it was. The dark circles under his eyes seemed to have vanished, causing another relaxed wave to rush over me.
Have you given him any energy?
I shook my head, not remembering at all giving him energy. Whether he took energy in our sleep was something I would be unaware of, so I could only assume that he had not taken any from me at all. Diana pressed her lips together before looking to Damien.
You'll need to feed him energy soon.
I know. Wow, I know. Diana nodded in reply before turning on her heel and walking to the door. Before she crossed the threshold, however, she looked back at me over her shoulder.
I'm curious about something.
Huh? What is it? For a moment, hesitation took over Diana's expression before she settled into her curiosity and asked,
What are your thoughts about him being a demon once again?
Are you really going to ask me this? I stared at Diana, seeing the curiosity burn in her eyes. My grip slightly tightened around Damien as I let my thoughts try and construct an answer. At the same time, I wasn't entirely 100% sure myself. He wants to be a human. I don't know. I'm happy he's a demon. I want to say I don't know, but it's like, I want to say I don't know, but let's put this into thought. I'm going to start talking a little bit more here. Okay, so as far as we know, Damien despises being a demon. He said so himself. He wanted to be human or nothing else. Me, on the other hand, I don't mind his demon form at all. He's completely fine. But in my perspective, I would want him to be happy. So, all of that aside, I would put his happiness first before mine. Me, I personally don't care if he's a human or a demon, to be honest. So I would be in between. But for Damien, it looks like he wants to be human. So I would put him first before me. And I'd say he wants to be a human. At the end of the day, Damien desired to be a human above anything else. He made that clear when we met, and I wanted to respect his decision. Hell, I fell in love with him even as he became human. He and I were closer that way. Diana stared at me for a moment before nodding in acknowledgement and leaving the room, closing the door behind her. That was an interesting interaction. Looking down at Damien's sleeping form, he had turned his head in his sleep so I could only see the top of his orange head. I smiled slightly and kissed the top of his head, causing him to stir a bit in my arms. At the end of it all, I wanted what was best for us, and that was something we had to deal with together. Whether or not this ended with him being human or not was up in the air, but for now, I had the responsibility of caring for him. Aww. Damien gently squeezed my form, allowing me to take in that he was awake now, and looked up at me with tired eyes. Aw, you finally got some sleep, you precious little child being.
Good morning.
I couldn't help but smile at his expression. He was an early bird, but the rare occasion where I caught him more entranced in sleep than me were moments I found so adorable. Good morning, sleepyhead. Damien blushed a bit before crawling up a bit and kissing me sweetly. I smiled wider against his lips and wrapped my arms around him, melting into the kiss lovingly. It had been years since I felt an incubus's energy drain, so to feel my energy snake over my nerves and into my lips felt odd. I had to get used to it again for now, and I tightened my arms around Damien to keep from pulling away from the slight surprise it brought me. As we slowly pulled away, I could see a tint of gold course through Damien's eyes as he looked down at me and licked his lips. A red tint brushed over my cheeks. Was my energy that delicious? What did it even taste like? Girl, what is running in your mind? Are you really thinking that? I wouldn't even think that. Before I could ask, however, Damien sat up and stretched his arms over his head, letting a small yawn trickle from his throat. When he relaxed, he looked towards the table, seeing the food Diana brought us.
Oh, wow. Did you make that?
Ha ha! I wish. I wish. I looked over before shaking my head. Diana came and delivered it to us. Damien observed the plates for a bit as he listened to me before rolling out of bed and going over to the table and lifting the plates off of them. As he turned back to me, I took the time to sit up in bed, leaning against the bedpost. Damien passed a plate to me and sat beside me, placing his own plate on his lap and eating what was prepared for us. I, however, watched for a moment, wondering what was going on in his head. What did he think about this whole thing? He seemed to be in better shape than he was before, which was good. Was he easily adjusting back to being a demon? A part of me felt a little happy at that idea, while the other part of me tried to be realistic. This was temporary. Maybe. As Damien caught me staring, he looked up at me and stopped eating, causing me to flinch from being caught and start eating my own food.
What is it? You were staring at me. What's wrong?
You're just so handsome. I want to say that. But I'm going to say, what do you think about this?
About what?
Well, about you being a demon and stuff. I couldn't read his mind. I needed to figure out somehow, and it was better to ask him personally than to make assumptions. Maybe he changed his mind about the whole thing, or maybe it became worse. Only he knew. Damien looked down at his plate for a moment before closing his eyes.
I don't like it.
See, what did I tell you? He doesn't like being a demon. You don't?
I don't. As good as it is to have my powers back, I still don't like using them.
See, I was right. It was a good thing I chose that he wants to be human. So you'd rather be a human without powers to fight? I didn't intend to be rude with the question, but the idea of enjoying a powerless life seemed rather odd to me. Damien nodded, affirming my comment.
I would rather have no abilities at all than live with the responsibility of them. Having power has brought me too much pain for me to be happy with them.
Aw. I mean, I can understand. Damien looked up at me, a serious flame in his eyes.
But if having powers will get us home, then I will do everything I can to ensure that we return safely.
I stared wide-eyed at Damien, surprised at his words, but thankful for how he was willing to work for us to get back home. He was right. What mattered at the moment was getting us home. We would figure the human part out after we returned. Damien and I continued to eat and eventually separated for training, him to his brothers and me towards my own training session. I went to the grand hall, knowing Seto would either be there expecting me or would arrive there shortly after me. Nevertheless, I was ready to train again with him. What I didn't expect was seeing Seto and Diana in the room. I quickly ducked back around the corner and listened, not wanting to disturb them if they were talking.
That damn little... How dare she...
My lady, please, calm down.
Wait, what? What was going on? That's what I'd like to know.
No, Seto, it is not all right. That selfish brat had the nerve to...
Isaiah, please. I'm all right, I swear.
Stop talking and let me finish.
Diana's harsh tone echoed through the hall out of the doorway before a soft sigh followed. I peered around the corner and watched as Diana ran her hand along Seto's cheek gingerly, tracing a small mark on it with her fingers. Radiant purple light emanated from her hand as Diana glided it back and forth over Seto's skin. Seto, however, had a small smile painted over his lips as he watched her work.
Damn her to the deepest pits of hell.
I want to know who you're talking about.
You're being too harsh, my lady.
Muskaya is being a selfish brat, Seto. I saved her from dying, and this is how she repays me? Ungrateful little...
Okay, so she's not talking about me. Phew! I didn't understand what was happening, but I could tell there was another woman involved. Someone named Bukskaya. What was really odd was that Diana was acting strange. She was upset over something a girl did to Seto. It was kind of cute, but it was not what I expected from Diana.
You're being adorable right now.
Ah! He sees her! Adorableness! Cheered for you! Go get her, man! Diana suddenly stopped moving and looked up at Seto in surprise. A large blush splashed across her cheeks. Seto, growing bolder, gently lifted a hand up between them and placed it under her chin, lifting her head slightly. Go for it!
I promise that I'm all right. She barely scratched me.
But she...
Loves her mistress very much, just like I do. She couldn't help it. I did try to surprise you after all. She was startled and wanted to protect you, just like I would have.
Diana grumbled, pressing her lips into a fine line as she stared down his chest.
She still attacked you.
Which I'm sure she's very sorry for. Let it go.
Let it go, let it. Okay, I'm gonna stop right there because I'm pretty sure a lot of people have already gotten tired of that song. Whew. Zero moved his hand to cup Diana's cheek, rubbing his thumb along her cheekbone. Diana closed her eyes, but didn't lean into his hand.
You know, you didn't yell at me for saying your name.
Oh wow, that completely slipped my mind. He said her true name, Azir.
My priority was not correcting you.
You were concerned about me.
Ah! Calling her out.
Yes, I was. Why wouldn't I be?
Aww. Saddle frowned a bit as Diana opened her eyes and looked up at him, trying to appear unfazed at his teasing. However, the blush that still radiated from her face didn't lie.
Why are you concerned about me, Azair? You've protected me my whole life when it's my job to protect you. You didn't correct me again.
Silence followed as Saddle waited for her to answer. I was curious myself, especially since she seemed to not reciprocate Sarah's feelings. Diana closed her eyes and took a small breath before finally replying.
I care about you, Zero. You've been by my side ever since we were mere children. Every time you've gotten hurt,
Oh, he's been there since they were kids. I watched in awe as Diana brought her hand up and ran her fingers along the scar on his chest between the lapels of his jacket. Sato stared at Diana as Diana traced around it, her face painted in sadness.
I know you vowed to protect me with your life, but that doesn't mean you must accept every wound on your body as insignificant.
Diana closed her eyes, forming a fist against Seto's chest and clenching it hard. The scar must have had some significance to make her that upset. I bit my lower lip. I was watching this unfold, unsure of what to do. Should I leave them be? Should I interrupt? I did have to train. Let them finish, girl! I didn't want to be rude. Whatever they had to settle, I needed to be patient. I stuck close to the wall behind me and listened further, peeking to barely see what was going on.
It still bothers me. I thought I was going to lose you that day.
But you stepped in.
I did. That was the day before you signed your life away to me. A stupid decision.
I stared wide-eyed as Sato cupped Diana's cheek and forced her to look up at him, making her gasp and meet his gaze in surprise.
Stop. I won't let you think that my decision was a mistake.
Diana closed her eyes and leaned her cheek ever so slightly against Sato's hand, making him visibly inhale a breath of surprise.
I don't think I will ever understand you. Even after all of these years, I still don't understand your devotion.
Jeez, girl, he's trying to say that he loves you and his feelings are real. Come on. Aw, Diana let out a small sigh before stepping away and looking up at Sato with a serious expression.
I should go. The boys will be waiting for me to train them, and your student will be here soon.
Without letting Sato reply, Diana turned and walked towards the door. I stepped away from my hiding spot, not wanting Diana to know I was eavesdropping. As I came into her view, she froze for a second before continuing on out of the room and down the hall. Sato watched as she left, staring at the back of her head until it vanished beyond the doorframe. I looked over and finally walked towards Sato, not wanting to interrupt his gaze with my presence.
She really can't see it.
I feel bad for him. Aw. Sato finally turned and looked at me with eyes drowned in hopelessness. It was almost heartbreaking to see his face so heavy and downtrodden. He seemed to have completely confided in me with this new expression because I was positive that this was an emotion he hid very well from most everyone. Sato finally looked to the ground.
My lady doesn't understand love. She's always been told that love for her is impossible because of who she is, no matter how much she dreams of it. Because of that, she can't recognize it, even when it's standing right in front of her.
Oh, you poor little precious being. You're another precious being, but you poor baby. Oh, I want to get you guys together. Don't say anything. There has to be a way. That's her loss. Ha! There has to be a way. It was a matter of circumstance. She needed to see his love for her. If she was bred to accept that love didn't exist, then we needed to prove that what she knew was wrong. Sato looked up at me in surprise, a small glimmer of hope rekindling at my words.
You really think that she...
I know she can. I mean, look at me. I'm going to be married to the man I love. Surely love exists, even for demons. I watched with a smile as I saw happiness slowly seep back into Seto's expression. He couldn't give up on her. He would be able to show her his love somehow. After a brief moment, Seto let out a sigh, closing his eyes. He turned to me, and when he opened his eyes, my relentless trainer had appeared with a serious look on his face. Without having to say anything to me, he stepped back in some despair. That was a fast turnaround. He placed a foot behind him and propped himself into a stance. Wait, wasn't he going to materialize my weapons? How was I... Seto suddenly charged at me, making me screech and dodge out of the way. What was he doing? Seto!
What are you waiting for? Summon your weapons!
What? He wasn't being serious, right? He expected me to use magic? That was impossible. As I managed to duck and dodge his attacks, my fingers began to tingle. Energy rushed through my veins and under my skin, tickling my nerves. It was unnatural, but somehow I felt comfortable with it. Was this truly magic at work, or was I just being nervous, not wanting to be skewered? Try! I had to try. I jumped away from Seto and quickly closed my eyes, focusing on my hands. I needed my weapon. Within my hands formed a handle of lavender mist. It glistened before finally shifting and forming into the sword I was used to, gripping it and feeling it physically in my hand. I smirked and turned back to Seto, bracing for another attack. Parry! Parry, I don't know how to pronounce it, whatever. I jumped forward and swung my sword against the spear to push the blade away from me. With a loud clash, the spear was pushed to the side, leaving him open. Like a repeated memory, I attacked him, clashing my weapon with his multiple times. The chime of our weapons smashing against each other rang through the room, the sound almost piercing my mind. It wasn't a noise I was ever going to be used to. Like the last time, we trained for hours on end, stopping once or twice for a break. However, I could feel my body slowly getting used to the feeling of swinging a weapon and defending myself. At least I would be prepared in case something were to happen. As the sun began to set and the purple sky began to darken, we stopped once again for a third and most likely final break. Seto stretched and let out a small yawn as I did the same. I think I'm getting used to this. A chuckle escaped Seto's throat as he rose from one of his stretches. What stopped both of us from laughing was an echoed conversation in the hall softly reverberating into the room. Huh?
Are you sure? Another kingdom wants to join the rebellion?
It would seem so. Diana isn't happy about it, though.
Why not? The leader of that kingdom is so handsome!
Ooh.
He was indeed, but an alliance through marriage?
Oh, come on! You can't tell me I'm the only one who can see it! I can see them being a beautiful king and queen!
Whoa. Hold up. Are you saying that this kingdom wants to join a rebellion only if Diana agrees to marry the leader of the kingdom? Hell no. Hell no. Please tell me she's rejecting this offer. Please tell me she's rejecting this offer.
I don't think she will marry him, despite it being a wise choice.
Thank you. She belongs with Seto. She belongs with Seto.
She would be stupid not to.
Oh, come on.
Well, the last time she signed her life away to marriage, her entire family was killed off while she was away. I don't think she could ever let marriage control her again.
That's true. I would understand why she wouldn't want to do marriage again.
I guess, man, the only person she has now is that guard.
Shy! She's a good guard. My curiosity took hold of me and caused me to hug the wall near the door, listening in further. Seto, however, remained where he was, looking toward the ground.
I wonder how they met. He's not an incubus, but he's mega powerful.
Yes!
He is indeed very skilled. I'm slightly jealous of her for having such a devoted guard.
No.
Devoted? He's crazy! I've heard them talk in private before. He keeps saying that he's in love with her. Love!
Could you not? His feelings are real. Can you not, Faye? Can you not? Oh, let me give you a hug, Seto. I want to give you a hug.
That is very odd. However, I wouldn't be surprised if her natural aura has affected him after years of servitude. I believe he's been with her since they were children, so that's over 100 years of protecting her and being close.
Yeah, he's probably just enthralled by her. She enthralls everyone she meets.
Oh my god, no, that's not right. Even Diana knows. Even she knows that it's not enthrallment. But he's just being crazy, and I'm like saying, I'm calling bullshit on that.
A pure-blooded succubus will do that. At least she's the only pure-blooded demon of Lilith in the world.
Ha ha ha, yeah, about that, you know what? I'm not gonna say anything until we do a certain someone's route. Yeah, not saying anything.
That we know of at least.
Haha, it's cute to think you guys think that she's the only pure-blooded succubus. Alright. The conversation trailed off as the pair moved away from the room, and I looked back at Seto, seeing him grip his spear and grit his teeth. He didn't seem to like what Rabbit and Faye had to say. Seto? Are you okay? Seto looked up at me, a dull glaze over his eyes. From the expression on his face, I could tell that he had heard things like that before, but it still seemed to affect him emotionally. I frowned and walked over to him as he shook his head.
What they said about her marriage was true. When the Demon Lord's heirs left the demon world, my lady left to go after them. However, while she was gone, the Demon Lord attacked this castle.
Oh man, it was partially our fault that her family was killed. I feel bad. I watched as Seto gripped his... Wow, what am I saying? I said something, okay. I watched as Seto gripped his spear and even tighter than before, shutting his eyes and turning his head away from me almost in shame.
The Demon Lord's henchmen, the imp demons who brought you here, infiltrated our defenses and were able to reach the heart of the castle, where my lady's parents and unborn baby sister were hiding. Through some form of blood magic, they were able to break through the protective barriers around the room and...
She had an unborn baby sister, and the Demon Lord killed her. I'm going to... That is cruel, man. He didn't need to explain. The heavy weight in my gut acknowledged what he was going to say before he could speak it. I looked at the floor, suddenly feeling very sorry for Diana. She lost her entire family while she had been in the human world, trying to save them. It was too cruel. Seto let out a shaky sigh before I looked back up to me. Okay.
When my lady returned, she vowed to seek vengeance and destroy the Demon Lord's tyranny. She formed the rebellion, and now, here we are, readying ourselves for the final battle. Everyone only sees the hard-faced, cutthroat queen of the rebellion when they look at her, as if she were unable to love or care.
Seto hand reached up for his collar, where a beautiful purple rose charm hung. His fingers ran over the surface as he smiled to himself.
However, Isaiah is still the sweet and innocent girl I grew up with. She's still the woman who saved me and protected me from a fate worse than death. I know deep down that the love I feel for her is pure and true. I vowed to protect her with my life, and I will forever stand by that promise.
Aww.
It's just difficult to hope that one day things may change, and that the one you love may turn around and say they love you in return.
Aww. No, not the first option, definitely not. Is there any way to prove your love, Sarah? I'm sorry, I don't know. Is there any way to prove your love for her? Seto didn't reply. He looked at me, deep in thought, before shaking his head. I thought I saw a glimmer of hope, but he rid himself of whatever he thought he had been focusing on.
Never mind that. We need to focus. Let's continue.
I nodded, taking up my weapon again and preparing for our final sparring match. I treaded towards my room, admiring the decor as my mind wandered to Damien. I began to wonder how his training was going. Was he adjusting to his powers once again? Was he holding back? The idea of him using his powers seemed a bit thrilling. It had been years since he used them, after all. What kind of attacks could he do now, especially in the demon world?
Oh, many things can happen in this world. You're limiting the possibilities so much.
Can you not? Not right now! I stopped walking, suddenly feeling the room dim a bit as I looked around for the voice. It wasn't Diana. I knew that for a fact. But how was the voice in my dreams back to haunt me? Was it like how it was able to communicate with me in the human world? I looked around for a mirror, but found none in the sight.
Again, you limit the powers of magic, dear. Everything, nothing. Sometimes I don't know myself.
Oh my god, that didn't even appear in the text, but okay. I could only glare into the darkness, tensing up and preparing myself for a fight. The laughter that echoed from the dark only made me ease up a slight inch.
So eager to fight. Too bad you're not as wise as you are brash.
Why don't you just leave me alone?
Because this is entertaining. This little game of will he, can he is just too interesting to pass up. Only a fool would ignore this kind of intrigue.
Then why pretend to be Diana? A lingering silence filled the room, making it that much more creepy. Something about this wasn't right, and I began to feel chills just from standing in that same spot. No one was around to witness me, and I was feeling like prey about to be struck at. At last, a deep chuckle invaded my ears.
Because, dear, I'm what you fear the most.
What?
Think about it. Or should I replay my little rape scene for you again?
No, that's not necessary, thank you. I froze, realizing what she meant. She gave me that horrid nightmare and made me watch it? I knew that something had been wrong with it, outside of it being completely disgusting in the first place, but to think that it was induced by whatever this thing was. I practically snarled at the dark. That was you!
You sound so confident. It feels so good to be recognized.
I began to prepare an attack, but found myself faltering due to the exhaustion from my training. The harder I tried, the more the room around me began to spin. I had to stop myself, not wanting to faint in the hallway. The voice in the air chuckled heartily at my struggle, making me grimace and glare harder at the dark.
Oh, I can't wait until you realize who I actually am. The expression on your face will be just so tantalizing.
Just leave, tell me. Tell me! This game was becoming too insane. This was some voice in my head, taunting me and laughing at my struggles to make it stop playing games with me. The voice only laughed.
I don't need to tell you anything, dear. You'll have to figure out that little detail on your own.
What's stopping me from just ignoring you?
You can't. I'm always there, tickling your brain and reminding you of what you truly believe.
With those last haunting words in my mind, the voice finally vanished. The light of the whatever. The light of the hallway grew back to its original glow. I took a breath, looking around and taking in the sight of everything as I realized I was alone once more. How much time had passed? I could only grimace and shake my head, holding it. This was a major issue, but would I be able to fix this on my own, or would I need help? Damien had problems of his own to deal with. What if I approached Diana about it? I started my journey back to my room with the thoughts in my head. What the hell was haunting me? Some kind of ghost? A magical entity?
Come on! Guess! Just guess!
How am I supposed to know?
Zero? What's going on? I stopped walking at the sound of Faye and Sero's voices reverberating through the hall around the corner, breaking my thoughts. They sounded intoxicated. Are they drunk? Holy shit! How could that have been? We had just separated from training minutes ago. Zero wasn't that fast, right?
Didn't you just get out of training? Won't Diana be looking for you?
Oh my god.
She's busy, apparently, so I get to have a couple of drinks.
Oh my god.
Fine, whatever. Just guess already!
Guess what, though? Damien is there? Oh, please tell me Damien's not drunk. If he's drunk, holy crap. I looked around the corner to see Seto, Faye, and to my surprise, Damien, sitting on the ground by the bedroom door. Damien's face was as pink as a peach, matching Seto and Faye's intoxicated faces, but his eyes were glimmering in gold. He's totally drunk! I don't know what to say about this, but I want to see this unfold. I'm probably going to laugh so loud. Had Damien been drinking? Well, no, duh. You can see the pink tints on his face. He didn't seem to be affected by the chatter between Seto and Faye.
How am I supposed to know which one you have?
I could have both!
See, even he agrees that's not fair.
I pressed myself against the wall, listening in further. Why were they all drunk, and what were they even talking about?
I will say, though, that human girl is just mega super duper powerful, you know?
Oh, well, thank you, Faye.
I'll say, you.
Seto gave Damien a nudge before taking a swig from a seemingly almost empty bottle before continuing to speak to my incubus.
You got really lucky to land a girl like her. Powerful, feisty, smart. She's like a human version of my lady.
I'm a human version of Diana? Really? Nah.
Oh, don't even start talking about Diana, you crazy puppy.
I'm not a puppy. I'm a...
I can't. This is just too hilarious. I shook my head, stifling a bit of a laugh. This was a little amusing to overhear.
No. She's nothing like her.
Oh my god! Drunk Damien's voice! I can't.
Huh?
I stared over at Damien, seeing him run a finger along the rim of a bottle, eyes deep in thought.
She isn't a demon. She's a human, pure and perfect. She would never hurt me or do anything cruel to me.
Oh, I feel so light in the heart. Oh. My heart slightly melted at his words. He really thought that about me?
I loved her ever since I met her, and she's been there for me for everything. She made me human. Well, almost human anyway.
Oh, this is so adorable and hilarious at the same time. I need more drunk Damien in my life. JONAH, more drunk Damien. Please. JONAH Scott does an awesome drunk Damien. I can't. Anyway. Damien. Seto nudged Damien again, laughing a bit.
Well, my lady tried to turn you human. You can't say she didn't try.
Not without making the one I love choose something horrible and give her our energy.
Aw.
Hey now.
Oh, get off your high horse, puppy boy. Diana's got a mean side and you know it. I'm not surprised she tricked him into giving her that energy.
But I still love her, even when she's mean to me.
Oh, Seto. I will help you two get together. You just wait.
I think that's called masochism.
Ah, dear. Damien? I finally turned the corner, facing the three as they looked up at me. As Damien's eyes locked onto mine, I could feel a very weak enthrallment attempt to wrap around my core, but it almost felt sloppily done, allowing me to break through it without even trying. Seto and Faye scrambled up and pointed at Damien.
It was his fault!
What? Before I could make them stop, the pair of demons practically sprinted down the hall and out of sight around the far corner, leaving me and Damien alone. Oh my god. I'm guessing Damien was the one who got all of them drunk. But Damien, you don't need to do that. Alright then. I pressed my lips together and walked towards Damien, seeing him gaze hard into my eyes in attempts to enthrall me. Damien, what happened? He wasn't answering, and I could tell that he was trying to make the enthrallment happen. Still, I remained unfazed. I sighed and crouched down, helping Damien up and ignoring the ornate, empty bottles that fell over at his upward movement. Come on, let's get you inside. I guided Damien inside at last and closed the door behind us. He seemed to follow along, his arms wrapped around my shoulders as I walked him towards the bed. Before I could lay him down, however, he spun me around and pinned me to the wall, staring deep into my eyes. Whoa! Whoa! Damien?
I love you.
That came out of nowhere, but I love you too. I became lost in Damien's glowing gold eyes, feeling his enthrallment attempt once again to consume me. Every warning bell went off in my head, reminding me that he hadn't exactly been fed properly and regularly. Give him your energy! Dang it! This was probably him starving for energy. Some part of me, despite all of this, didn't want to let this go. It had been years since I felt enthrallment on me. My body began to crave the urge to delve into my curiosity. Would it be different? Would I enjoy it more than when we usually held each other? He was starving and I was curious. A deadly combination indeed. I let myself sink against the wall, staring up at Damien as he bored his hungry gaze into my soul. To see the new animal within him seemed too erotic to pull away from. Well, damn, girl, you're thirsty as hell.
I just need a bit. Just enough to stop the hunger.
Control yourself! Control yourself, Damien. Control yourself. No, I'm not doing that. A kiss that. Take as much. We're going all the way smut, as I said before. So take as much as you want. And cue the sexy music. Okay. I was more than willing to dive into this dance if he begged it of me. He was mine and I was his, even beyond what we were physically. The shape of his lips and his hands, his body against mine, always lit my body on fire with his touches. Soon enough, my words consumed his thoughts as he captured my lips with his own in a desperately passionate kiss, making me gasp and moan in surprise. He released my hands, allowing me to wrap my arms around his neck as he pressed himself harder against my body, pinning me up to the wall with his chest and hips. His own hands traveled to my hips and lifted me up further on the wall, his fingers dancing over the skin beneath my skirt. As shudders ran through my body, the enthrallment he set in my core began to consume me, filling me with a heated need for them. Damien became the only thing I was able to think about, the only person I let in my thoughts, the only demon I let all of my body, mind, take all of my body, mind, and soul. Damien slowly began to drag his kisses down my cheek and onto my neck, rolling the clothes covering my chest up over my skin and making me lift my arms up off of Damien's shoulders. He pulled away once, just to pull the articles of clothing off of me, leaving me completely nude above the waist. The cool air that rushed against my skin made me quake a bit in Damien's arms, but only spurred him to lick and nip over my skin. A hot moan ran through my lips at the feeling. This was indeed a starving demon, enjoying a feast of energy, growling happily at the sound of my moans and tightening his grip at the feeling of my shivering body. Something like this was addicting and wildly erotic, something I didn't ever get to experience before. I slightly feared becoming needy for it, but I let the thoughts dissipate with his hands caressing my skin hotly.
I need you so much.
Oh my god. I can't. Me too, Damien. Ah! His voice raked amorous shivers down my spine, making me roll my eyes to the back of my head and press my head into the wall behind me. I barely felt him removing the remainder of our clothes, leaving us bare against each other. Truthfully, I couldn't have cared less where we made love, against the wall, on the floor, on the bed. It didn't matter to me. I just needed him. Blame the enthrallment or blame my own selfish perversion. It mattered little to me the difference between. The night became filled with heavy pants and moans. Whenever we made love, it was deep, slow, and romantic with me and Damien. However, tonight was rough, beast-like, and almost carnal. That is a weakness of mine. Rough sex. Okay, I'm just gonna not. The new feelings within me drove me mad with each moan I released and each gasp for air I took in. This was new and I loved it. As we rocked through our simultaneous climax, the draining of my energy sent my mind into a misty frenzy, taking over my body and completely wrapping myself around Damien as he held me closer still. Okay. The sound of his hot breath in my ear sent shivers down my body, even as we slowly coasted towards a brilliantly deserved afterglow. His arms around me cradled me against his warm chest as we inhaled and exhaled in perfect sync. That was...
Yeah.
I looked up at Damien, seeing him stare up into the ceiling. His eyes had returned to normal, but his expression was slightly enigmatic. What was on his mind? I feeling my gaze on him. Damien looked down and smiled, kissing over my forehead.
I hope I didn't hurt you.
I shook my head and cuddled close to Damien, nuzzling his chest lovingly. It was amazing. Oh my god. Whoops. Damien nodded before holding me close and falling into a well-deserved sleep, with me following quickly after. The morning slowly rose, with me waking up to see Damien's sleeping face. As I slowly sat up, I felt the ache of the morning wreck through me, demanding that I go back to sleep. However, I knew better. I knew that the day had to continue forward and that I had to wake up. Still, seeing Damien fast asleep made me a bit relieved. He certainly needed to sleep after the night before. A very faint knock rapped at the door, causing me to look up and see Diana enter with 2 plates of warm food. As she stepped in, she looked at me and tilted her head.
Up again before him?
I nodded and rubbed the back of my neck, grinning a bit. I guess I've gotten used to Demon World time. Diana laughed a bit before placing the food she held on the table nearby and crossed her arms.
I see. Well, if you could, please wake Damien up. I have something I must speak to you two about.
I wonder what that is. Huh? What is it? Diana grimaced and looked away from me, staring at the ground and avoiding my gaze.
It would be best if both of you heard my news. Please, just wake him up.
I nodded and looked down at Damien, seeing him slightly stir against my body before I placed my hands on his shoulders and kissed his cheek. Damien, wake up. Kiss his cheek again! I giggled a bit and kissed his cheek again, nuzzling his temple with my nose. Come on, Diana's here and she wants to talk to us. Damien stirred a bit more, finally opening his eyes and yawning from being awoken. As he looked up at me, I smiled down at him, earning a tired smile back. Morning.
Morning.
Damien slowly sat up, stretching his arms over his head before shaking his head and looking to Diana, taking in that she was in the room.
Good morning.
Damien only nodded before leaning against the bedpost, relaxing against them as he looked to me. I turned my head to Diana and gestured for her to speak. So, what is it? Diana looked down at the floor, trying to find the answers in the wooden grain. I became more curious as to what Diana was about to reveal the longer the silence in the air lingered. What was the important news she had to say? News. You meant news. Whew. When Diana formulated her answer, she looked up at me and Damien, taking in a breath.
I may have found a way to perform a reverse ritual.
Say what? A what? I was close, but okay. Diana ran her hands through her hair and locked her gaze to me, obviously more comfortable with speaking to me than to my fiancé.
Long ago, when this world was forged, there was a human named Lilith, who was transformed into a demon and was brought to this world. It had been known ever since that any human who wished to be a demon, or is punished to be one, can very much become one.
Okay, so are you saying that... Diana nodded slowly, bringing her hands to her stomach and filling over her fingers.
It took me some sleepless nights, but I do believe I can perform a reverse ritual, which would in essence turn a demon into a human.
Nice, you found a way. My heart stopped. It was possible now?
How are you sure?
I could hear the twinge of sour strain in Damien's voice. He was right to be skeptical. After all, she had failed to turn him human before. What was to say that this wasn't going to be a failure as well? Diana shook her head and lowered her hands to her sides.
I'm not. Nothing like this has ever been done before, and it could be risky. Hell, you could even die from this.
What? What? No, I don't want him to die. What? I instantly stood up from the bed, making Diana turn her gaze at me in shock. This could kill Damien? There was no way in hell I was going to go through with this if she was suggesting such a thing. Then what are you suggesting?
I'm suggesting that it's an option. A risky one, but an option nonetheless.
Diana turned her eyes to Damien, seeing him straighten up in bed and gaze back at her with a serious expression.
I know that what I did back then was wrong. My intent was to make you as human as possible. But there was no method to even do that until now. If this works, you will become human. I swear on my family name.
Stay silent. It wasn't my place to speak or not. This whole situation was dangerous, but it was ultimately up to Damien. To be human or to be demon, that was something he had to decide. I loved Damien no matter what. I should have saved when I came up to choices, but that didn't even occur to me. Oh well. I looked over at Damien and watched him look back over to me, a glimmer of hope in his eyes. I could tell what he wanted, but would he ask me anything? Would I have a say?
Why wouldn't you have a say?
Oh my god, get out of my brain! Before my eyes, the world around me froze and I was shut in a room of darkness, everything barely tinted in shadow. What? I looked around, feeling stuck to my spot as a dark laughter echoed around the room.
It would be so selfish of him to become human without considering your feelings first. Wouldn't you agree?
Oh my god, shut up. Whatever makes him happy, I'll agree with it. What do you want now?
I'm just stating what's deep in your heart. Nothing more.
What do you mean?
Don't tell me I have to spell it out, dear. Damien turning human? He'd lose all of his powers. He'd be worthless, weak, and simple.
But he would be happy. Can't the guy be happy? But what if it's what he wants?
Do you even know what he wants?
Oh my god. The memory of my wedding day flashed before my eyes. The voice was telling the truth. Did I really know what Damien wanted? Was anything he wanted for the best? A voice chuckled deeply, a relaxation settling into my core.
Now you're getting it.
I remained silent, now lost once again. What was best? What if turning Damien human meant destroying who he was? I became trapped in an endless cycle of questions and confusion as the voice finally vanished and let the world continue on its journey forward in time.
You do not have to decide now, but I will be awaiting your answer if you do wish to try.
Thank you.
Diana nodded before leaving the room, most likely to prepare for the day. Damien and I stood in silence, me lost from the voice in my head, and Damien lost in his own thoughts. What were we supposed to do? The option was now on the table, but instead of Diana sleeping with Damien, there was a chance that Damien could lose his life. I wasn't sure where I stood on the issue, but I didn't like the options I was given before and now. Was it better to just leave Damien a demon? Was it worth dying to become human? The voice in my head teased me, prodding me to convince Damien to think against himself, but my heart knew that the choice was his alone. As I looked at him, I could see the conflict in his eyes, while he stood and took up both of the breakfast plates Diana made for us. He walked to me at last and handing me one, looking into my eyes and locking our gazes on each other. What was he going to ask me? Was he going to keep the choice to himself?
Selfish.
Be quiet. I mentally flinched at the word, hearing it ring in my head. In my heart, sorry. However, as Damien turned and sat down on the edge of the bed, I watched as he let out a sigh before starting to eat. I guess the choice was fully going to be his own, whether I liked it or not. We ate in silence until he left for his training, and I headed for my own. Never had I felt such a strain and worry pull at my heart until that moment. I needed to work it out. As I arrived in the hall for training, I was surprised to see Diana in the room instead of Seto. Diana? Diana turned to me across her arms, taking in my form.
You will be training with me today. I apologize for Sero's absence.
What do you mean? Where is Seto?
He asked to train on his own for the day. As he will be in the front lines of the siege, I granted him permission.
That makes sense, actually. I pressed my lips together into a fine line, but nodded. If he was charging at the front, then it made sense that he'd want to take a day and work on himself. I held my hand out and summoned my weapon, ready to fight the queen of the rebellion head on. All right, then don't hold back. Diana nodded and prepared her stance, summoning her saber and bringing it back behind her. I had to use this new training partner as a new experience. Not everyone would fight like Seto, so this was a good challenge for me. Fighting with Diana was no easy task. She was quick and thought 10 steps ahead of me, catching me off guard at some points. Still, I could tell that I was putting up a good fight with my defense. What surprised me was how time passed by without me even noticing it. The more I clashed with Diana, the more ignorant I became of the sky's eventual descent from light purple to dark orange. Soon enough, our training had ended. I panted, out of breath, but surprisingly still on my feet. I didn't understand how or why, but I could only assume that I was getting better, which was a good thing. Diana smirked as she relaxed, stretching back and making her saber vanish.
I will admit, dear, you've done well for just a handful of days.
Oh, thank you, Diana. I grinned, happy to hear that I had impressed Diana with my skills. I only trained for a couple of days, but showed a great improvement. Maybe the demon world was aiding me in becoming a stronger person. Thank you, Diana. Diana nodded before walking to the exit of the room.
Now, please excuse me. I must see to the boys. You are free to come with if you'd like.
I want to see. I declined and left the room. As well towards the opposite direction, feeling my bed calling to me. Besides, I didn't want to be a distraction. Well, true. As I was heading to my room, I passed by a door that was only open a small crack, overhearing a quiet conversation.
This idea is idiotic, guard. Leaving during a war could be considered treason, and you would be abandoning your duties to your mistress.
What?
I know that, but
Peer in! I want to know! I stopped walking and peered inside, wanting to see what was going on. Seto was standing steadfast by the large fireplace as Shadow, arrogant as ever, loomed over the small table that was covered in maps and books.
Do you really think a quest like this is beneficial to the war? All it would do is leave us with one less powerful ally for a significant amount of time.
I would not be gone long. I've researched this.
Yes, I've researched this route multiple times. You've already spouted that more times than I care to appreciate. Regardless, even if things did go your way and you journey there and back without some form of incident, you would turn up a day before the siege. Your mistress will not likely forgive your absence.
But I have a feeling that this will be worth that absence. If I can do this, if I can prove that my love for her is real.
You are having delusions of grandeur. Love does not exist for us demons. This quest is folly.
No, Shadow, shut up. You know nothing. Shoot. I glared at Shadow. Why was he being such an ass? He's being an ass. He's okay. Seto, however, looked to his feet, gritting his teeth and shutting his eyes.
You came here and asked for my counsel, guard. I am merely telling you the truth of the matter. Whatever hope that human placed in your mind is illogical, and only a detriment to our cause.
Oh, shut up. I'm telling him what's right for him.
I hope you take my words into careful consideration. Nothing fruitful will come from this journey you wish to undertake.
As he finished speaking, Seto faded into a black shadow on the ground and slipped into the dark corner of the library, vanishing from sight completely. Seto growled beneath his gritted teeth and slammed his fists against the mantel behind him, forming a large crack in the stone.
Damn it.
Enter the room! Shadow was wrong. Whatever Seto wanted to do to prove his love for Diana was worth it. I felt my heart agree with my thoughts, with a firm thump in my chest. Taking a deep breath, I opened the door and entered the room. Seto looked up at me with a startled gaze when he heard the door creak as it opened.
Oh,
Seto looked down at the table, embarrassed, while he rubbed the back of his neck.
How long were you there?
Long enough to hear what Shadow said about me. With a frown, Seto turned his gaze to his feet. As I stepped further into the room, he let out a sigh.
I've been thinking a lot about what we've talked about. You asked me if there was a way to prove my love to his heir. Well, There is a way.
Really? Seto nodded before ushering me over to the table. I walked over and looked at what Seto had wanted to show me. A large set of maps, all pointing to a single area in the abyssal plains near the ocean.
There's a legend that has been passed around the demon world for eons. The Golden Rose. It's said that if someone finds its hiding place and proves that the love in their heart is real, the rose will blossom and become physical proof of their true love.
That sounds nice. Is this legend true?
No one can say for sure. No one has ever found it, yet the legend exists, so it must have some form of merit. I've tried for years to find its location, and now I have.
Seto pointed at a hand-drawn circle on the map and glided his finger along the map towards the area where the rose was said to be.
It would only take me 2 days to get there and to return. If the story is true, then I'm positive I can find it and bring it back to Isaiah as proof of my love.
As Seto finished, his smile darkened to a sad grimace.
However, I have been advised against this journey, and for good reason. I would be abandoning my lady days before the final battle, and that alone could be considered treason. Even more so, would she forgive me for leaving at such a crucial time?
I looked at Seto's face, seeing the conflicting emotions running through his eyes as he stared at the maps in front of us. Was it really worth it?
Still, this may be my only chance to do this. When we win this war, my lady will require me to be by her side more so than ever. I must be there to support her at all times when she rebuilds this broken world, but I would lose the chance to prove my love to her.
I didn't know what to say in response. While I wanted him to do what he felt was right, there was so many things that could go wrong. What if the legend was false? He would be gone for nothing and would come back empty-handed. What if something happened while he was away? He wouldn't be able to return in time or to help. Or what if something happened to him on his journey? He wasn't invincible. I closed my eyes, trying to figure out what to say to him. When I realized what I wanted to say, I spoke up. You should go! Go and prove your love to Diana. Do it. You have to do it. I'm shipping you two so much right now. You have to do this. I am cheering you on, man. It's a risk to take, man. Take the risk. Seto really loved Diana. It was plain as day, and if she wasn't persuaded yet from his words and dedication, this journey would convince her. It was worth the risk if he was really in love with her. She was strong enough to handle things on her own while Seto was away. Seto looked at me in surprise as I smiled at him. If this will prove your love to her, then you should find the rose and give it to her. Whatever the risk is, if you believe it's worth it, then do it. Something in Seto's eyes glistened as if a spark had been ignited, and the hope in his eyes began to burn with joy. A smile grew onto his face as he nodded, now determined.
You're right. I'll leave tonight and come back with the rose, even if it's the last thing I do.
You do you, Seto, you do you. I will be cheering you on. I grinned widely. I was happy for him. To see Seto so determined to prove his love filled my soul. As he stepped towards me, I watched as he wrapped his arms around me, giving me a friendly hug.
Thank you for your help. I won't ever forget this.
You got this. I smiled and hugged him back, patting his back. At my words, he squeezed me tighter before letting me go. Seto nodded to me before rushing out of the library, most likely to set off on his journey as quickly as possible. He needed all the time he could get. I, however, felt my heart give an approving thud in my chest. I had done the right thing. It raised a question, however. Would I have done the same for the one I love? After a brief moment, I nodded to myself. Yes, I would have. I left the library and headed towards my room, now filled with determination of my own. Knowing Seto will go and find the rose to prove his love towards Isaiah or Diana fills you with determination. I trekked to my room, letting the day fade to the back of my memories as I remembered Diana's words to Damien. She would have a ritual set up for him if he wanted to be human, but the choice was his. A part of me screamed to stop him. The risk of his life wasn't worth it, but it was something he desired more than anything. The fix seemed simple, but it was deadly. I could lose the man I love over something trivial. But was it trivial?
Of course it is.
I wasn't surprised anymore, glaring at the floor as the voice made themselves known in my head.
He's being selfish. Why be a human when he could be happy with you as a demon? Why does this change have to happen?
It's what he wants.
But what do you want? You're the one about to sign your life away to him forever and ever. Shouldn't your opinion matter whether he becomes a human or stays a demon?
My mind began to agree, but wasn't that selfish within itself? Was I truly that important to where I was allowed to decide Damien's choices because I was his soon to be wife? I continued forward, letting the dark chuckle from the voice reverberate in my head into a simple echo. This was my choice and the voice needed to stay out of it, whatever it was. I would deal with it in due time. For now, my focus was on Damien. I reached our room to see Damien standing by the door, obviously waiting for me. As he caught sight of me, he smiled slightly and walked over, meeting me halfway.
Hey.
Hey. I couldn't mask the worry in my voice. I was nervous, frightened beyond anything else about this. There was a lot at stake, and I became the witness and potential victim to it all with each minute that passed. But would Damien listen? Would he understand what he would do if I voiced my worries? Would he give a damn about the risks? Did he give a damn? I gazed into his eyes, seeing a hopeful fire burn within them. His answer was clear while mine wasn't. It was completely uncomfortable to be in my skin, but I had to accept that this was an obstacle we had to face, one way or another. Damien took up my hand and held him to his chest.
Would you be upset with me if I went through with it?
A part of me felt like screaming, begging him to reconsider. The other part of me wanted to simply shake my head and accept what was about to occur. I was completely torn. I gripped onto Damien's hands, clinging for something to soothe me, make me feel at ease. When nothing came, I scrambled to try and answer him. Oh dear. And you know what? I'm going to stop here for this episode. Yup. Leaving you with this cliffhanger here. We are going to make this choice in the next video. So, if you like this video, give it a thumbs up. If you want to see more of my videos, then click subscribe. Anyways, I'll see you guys in the next video. Bye!